This is a stimulus update for May 23rd. First, I want to point out this headline to you right here. According to Fox News, Arizona Rep condemns IRS over inexcusable failure to issue tax refunds and stimulus checks. So this is according to Andy Biggs, Republican from Arizona. He says, 2 months into COVID crisis, the IRS still has not figured out a way to promptly return phone calls or finish processing paper refunds. Given the billions of dollars East Valley residents, that's the district he represents, are forced to fork over to the IRS each year, these are inexcusable shortcomings. And then he says, I demand to know how IRS Commissioner Chuck Rettig, intends to improve taxpayer services in the coming days and weeks. He also pointed out that there are over 10,000 IRS employees that are required to work from home. Now, will anything be done by Andy Biggs speaking out against the IRS? Probably not, because it's just one person, but I think if there's enough pressure on congressmen to speak out, and many congressmen have to speak out due to the pressure, then maybe something could happen. He pointed out there's 10,000 at-home workers, and yet people still can't get through on the phone line. They can't get any updates on their stimulus checks. If you're not aware, there's around 10 to 20 million people who still haven't received their first stimulus check. Yesterday, the IRS had a news release. They released it on May 22nd about the latest state-by-state economic impact payment figures. One thing, before I get to the numbers, this really bothered me. So economic impact payments have continued going out at a rapid rate to Americans across the country. This is by Chuck Rettig, the IRS commissioner. So the words here, rapid rate, really annoys me. If you just said continue going out to Americans, it'd probably be fine. But there are still so many Americans in need of a stimulus check that haven't yet received it. So to say rapid rate, that just rubbed me the wrong way. If we look at the numbers here, they don't really mean much. So total number of EIP payments, if there was some context to this, then I think it would make more sense to the average person, but it's kind of arbitrary. So if, for example, for Alabama, if it said 2 million payments were made out of 3 million, then we could get some context. Otherwise, I don't really know how these numbers are important. Next, let's talk about a couple of sensational headlines. So this is according to CNBC. Trump administration warms up to sending out more coronavirus relief money. Sounds good, but I'll break this down for you. It's just a sensational headline. So President Trump says, I think we're going to be helping people out and getting some more money for them. And he added that the U.S. could take one more nice shot at stimulus. The reason why I'm laughing is just because it's nothing to do with warming up. These are just generic quotes that a lot of politicians are saying. Economic advisor Kevin Hassett also says, pretty likely it's coming sooner rather than later. And then Steve Mnuchin, Treasury Secretary, says strong likelihood. These three quotes mean absolutely nothing. These are just words with no meaning behind it. Next, let's look at the CNN article. So McConnell shuts door on House plan for jobless funds. Next package won't look anything like the Democratic effort. So what he's saying here, basically the main quote from this, the only important thing, is if we do another bill, it won't look anything like the House Democrats' bill, which I agree. So the House Act had what people say a lot of fluff, a lot of pork in it. If we look at the numbers right here, these don't really mean much. There's a lot of non-pandemic related categories for spending here that is not going to help the American people. Senate Republicans don't have an issue with direct payments to Americans. What they do have an issue with is all this right here. And now it's up to Senate Republicans to figure out some type of negotiation to move forward with this second stimulus check. So if you're wondering, when will the next stimulus check come? When will the HEROES Act pass? Or if not the HEROES Act, when will anything get done in Congress? Let's take a look at this. This is according to Senate.gov. So senators are officially on a state work period as of a couple days ago. So they are enjoying their time off. They don't have to do any work, even though it says state work period. It used to be called recess. but now they changed it to state work period to make it sound more official, but they are not obligated to do any work. And I know I point this out in a lot of my videos, but look at this schedule that they have. They were off February, March, April, May. I guess they're working the month of June, and then July, August. It's almost every month they're taking a week off, which I find ridiculous, especially since we have a crisis going on in our country. There are millions of Americans who are struggling, who filed for unemployment claims, have not got their unemployment checks, don't have jobs, can't find jobs, bills are piling up, people are behind on rent, grocery prices are going up, but yet senators are taking another week off. I feel like during a time of crisis like this, senators should not be allowed to take time off unless they figure out a solution to help the American people. And maybe they can take a week off if they want to, but they have to live off of $1,200. That means they have to stay in an apartment or house that they could rent for $1,200, live off of food that they could only afford to buy with their $1,200 budget. They need to get a sense of what the American people are going through. They are living in a bubble, and they are so far removed from the people that they are supposed to help. So they're supposed to come back June 1st, and there's still no guarantee of when this next stimulus check will be passed. If it's passed, we just don't know. They're stalling and wanting to see what's going on with the economy, some states opening up, and ideally, they would not like to issue another second stimulus check if the economy bounces back. Next, I want to point out this article according to the New York Times. So, Senate GOP blocks additions to stimulus bill. Now, there's one difference to this article compared to the other articles. This is published February 7th, 2008. This was around the same time when the last stimulus checks were being issued out during the housing crisis back in 2008. If you remember that time, 12 years ago, let me know in the comments. So back then, Senate stood in marked contrast to the House, where Republicans and Democrats led by Nancy Pelosi just took a week to reach a deal on an economic stimulus package with President Bush. So as you see, we still have the same team leader, Nancy Pelosi. 12 years later, it's pretty much the same thing. Then it says, the White House again urged Senate to act quickly. So it's not just now that they're moving slowly, they always move slowly. It is crucial that Senate now move quickly to pass a bill that will deliver relief to our economy. Then Senator Mitch McConnell, they really should have come up with term limits, this is ridiculous, says that he had called for the Senate to simply adopt the House package with two changes: payments for Social Security recipients and disabled veterans. So I'm thankful that this first round of stimulus checks went out to Social Security recipients and disabled veterans. The unfortunate part is that they had to wait till the back of the line in order to get their stimulus check. After majority of our country got their stimulus check, veterans had to wait until the very end, and there are still many veterans who haven't gotten their check yet. And this sentence is interesting. The measure was opposed by Republican leaders who said the Democrats added too many costly provisions, including an extension of unemployment benefits, tax credits for the coal industry, and increased subsidies for home energy costs. Now, besides this coal industry part, this exact sentence could apply to today. It could have been put out in a news source today, and this is exactly the same thing that relates to today. How can it be that 12 years later, there's still the same issue between Republicans and Democrats not getting along, Democrats adding too much, Republicans wanting less stuff, and 12 years later, it's the same eternal feud between parties with the same team captains and team mindsets. I think the only way to fix this problem is to drop the labels, don't become emotional with politics, don't label yourself as a Republican or Democrat, even if you believe in those values and principles. By labeling yourself one of those parties, then you are identifying it as that party. And if you identify, that means if any Republican or Democrat leader or values or principles are attacked, then you will feel attacked personally because you're identifying with that party. I'm not saying don't be a Democrat or Republican anymore. All I'm saying is that if we drop the labels and we look at it as a buffet, we just pick and choose what values and principles we like, then we'll be able to get together and not be two separate halves of this country. Think of a bird. Have you ever seen a bird with one right wing or one left wing fly? No, it needs two wings. So think of the country. The only way a bird will function properly is if both left and right wings are working together. And if you want to watch more stimulus updates, you could click this playlist over here or this video over here. Take care, be safe, have a good Memorial weekend. Thank you for watching.